This is a fascinating question. I guess it comes from a viewer. We're told that the offense this year is going to be pass heavy, and they're going to sling it all over the place, and the run game is going to be deprioritized, at least from where it has been in seasons past. Question for you guys. Who has more yards at the end of the season? Nick Chubb or whoever's going to lead this team in receiving yards?
That's easy for me. I'm going with what I've seen every year, and I'm going Nick Chubb, Mr. Consistent. Why would I lean on something new when I have something already right here? You know,
It's
proven. I'm going with Nick Chubb because no matter the circumstances, Nick Chubb shows up. He's available. He's reliable. No matter who's blocking for him, he's productive. So I'm going with Nick Chubb as opposed to hoping and wishing that somebody steps up and have more yards than him, as opposed to you already know what you're going to get.
What do you got?
Book it. Nick Chubb is going to have the best year of his career this year. Not only is he going to have the best year of his career this year, he's going to average the most yards per carry he's ever averaged. He's going to get the most touchdowns he's ever had, and he's going to lead the league in rushing. He is at some points late in the season, probably week 12 or 13, may be on pace for a 2,000-yard season. You say, G. Bush, here you go with the Kool-Aid again. Knee jerks. And you just said David Njoku going to have 1,000. Elijah Moore is all Northern Hemisphere. Yeah. You loved what Amari Cooper is going. You said they're going to throw the ball. How is Nick Chubb going to get that many yards? Well, I'm going to break it down to you. You see, now it's a numbers game. See, running the football is as easy as counting the 1 through 11. How many of those 11 people is in the line of scrimmage at the box, right? And before, we talked about the differences of quarterbacks. See, now you have multiple threats where defensive linemen and coordinators have to really figure out what you're going to do. Because there's always a threat of Deshaun Watson running. There's always a threat that they can run read option with that. There's now multiple threats where you got guys underneath, you got good route runners, and when you're going 3 wide receivers and you got an offensive line that is really an elite offensive line running the football, guess what happens when you have to take a linebacker off the field and bring in a nickel guy? Guess what? Now that nickel guy is in the run game. I love to see that if I'm Nick Chubb. Instead of 8 guys in the box, instead of 7 guys in the box, you can count 1, 2, 5 guys in the box. So even on passing downs, 3rd and 5, don't be surprised if you see Nick Chubb with the football in his hands, because guess what? On 3rd and 5,
it's a light box.
It's a light box, Boogie. Yeah. You already know. Yeah. And they counting on us up there to 2-gap this thing.
Absolutely.
So I gotta read run to the quarterback. Guess what? That ain't gonna work. Nick Chubb gonna be, there's lots of times Nick Chubb gonna have the ball and get 12, 13 yards, and you wonder, where is the safety at? Well, the safety over the top, which he better be. That is the great thing about offense. You're gonna have to pick something. A great coordinator always makes you pick something. Either you're gonna take away this, or we're gonna keep coming back to this every play until you stop it. And I think Nick Chubb is gonna have a lot of games where it's gonna be light work. He's gonna get the ball, and he's going to just be touching the rock, and ain't nobody going to be around because of the way the offense is going to be able to set up and be open.
Who you rocking with, Jay?
I agree with both you guys. The answer is going to be Nick Chubb.
Okay.
I'm enthusiastic, a little less enthusiastic than you, and here's why. I said the same thing before the 2020 season.
I did too.
And before the 2021 season. Who are they going to pick? Landry and Beckham?
Yeah.
Or Chubb?
Right.
And unfortunately, that didn't materialize. Now, what changed? Deshaun Watson changed.
Yeah.
To your point, if he is successful throwing the football early in the season and he can still run the ball as an option, everything you just said is factually correct, and he's already come out and said he is dedicating the rest of his career to number 32. When I read that Friday, I said, or maybe Saturday, I said, uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's a man of few words, Boogie. Yeah. He doesn't say much, but when he says something.
Speaking of Deshaun, we're talking about Chubb.
Nick Chubb. He doesn't say much, but when he does, the ground shakes, because he's a man of few words. He just lets his play do the talking. You'll never hear him pop off and say, "I'm not getting the ball enough." You'll never hear him criticize a teammate. If you had 53 of him, you have a Super Bowl champion every year. His attitude, his work ethic, and his skill set are all 10s. He's the perfect player. If he stays healthy, I think you're absolutely right. Because there's so many other options, he's going to be ridiculous running the ball. He's going to have perhaps the highest yard per carriage average he's ever had. I don't know about the 2,000-yard season. I'd love to see
On
it.
pace, week 12.
You did say on pace.
I don't know if he gets it.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him lead the league in rushing. But when I read Nick Chubb say that I'm dedicating the rest of my career to Jim Brown, that moved my meter.
Yeah.
Because he's already, in my book, the center of this team. I was a little disappointed when they just came all out and said, okay, we're done with the run, now we're going to throw it. You know, they never really said that, but those that know what they're doing with this offense are saying it. They're going to throw this ball 30 times a game. That's what they're going to do.
As defensive linemen, if they do that, they're bailing us out, and we love it. Boogie knows. You know how. Sometimes, have you ever been at the line of scrimmage and they throwing the ball good on you?
Yeah.
But as a D lineman, you're not really worried about that as long as your guys is keeping everything in front of them.
Absolutely.
And taking another snap, you feel good about it. And it gives you another opportunity. They throwing it like that means I can get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's how I get paid. But when a team is lining up and they running the ball at you,
It's demoralizing.
it's different.
It's
That
demoralizing.
takes your soul.
It's different.
That
And
takes
it's just
your soul.
slow, and just don't let them be getting 5-6 yards a pop. And every time it's second down, it's 2nd and 3. You know it's right. You can't do nothing.
You know what's crazy?
You can't
Bo?
do
You weren't
nothing.
a Browns fan then, so I don't know if you remember this game. But when they played the Atlanta Falcons, a team with
Yeah.
far less talent than
Yeah.
the Browns had, Browns should have walked over them. There was this two series in a row. Was it 14 straight carries?
14 straight carries.
12.
And
12 or 14.
every carry was like for 8 yards, 14 yards, 13 yards, 11 yards,
12
6
carries,
yards.
they averaged 7.3 yards per carry.
That's
Boogie.
just
12
them
straight
lining
carries.
up against you saying you can't stop us, and as a D line.
And they weren't even masking it. They weren't hiding what they were doing. You know what they were saying?
Yeah.
It was the pitcher that keeps throwing the outside curveball and the guy keeps swinging and missing. That's all you're going to see until you
It's
prove
crazy.
you can
As
hit
a
it.
D lineman, you know when a run's coming because the center comes up. He makes the same
the call.
check.
Sure.
He tells you we're going to take you to the linebacker. I want you to fan out this way, and you block these two, and we're hitting this gap, and you know it's coming.
And they did it, and they did it,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
did it.
that's-
It was like a bad movie that just I felt like I was watching Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I love
I'm like,
it.
guys, we've got, and meantime, the defensive coordinator is doing nothing to change it.
Lifeless.
Not adding
Like,
players
yeah.
to the box, but same base, 4-3, boring, no blitz, everything standard defense.
You know, sometimes the DCs getting their feelings and their egos get hurt. They just think like, you not finna keep doing this to us.
Oh,
and they
he
keep
did it. They did it. And by the way, they did it with their leading running back out of the game.
Because
They
it
were doing it
wasn't
with
a
a guy.
backup running back or a third string running back.
They were
did it
doing
with?
it. One of the running backs was
One
doing
of them
it.
was a special teams
Yeah,
guy who got more
yeah.
carries that drive than he
Yeah.
had in any
Yep,
game the
yep,
rest of the
yeah.
season.
Well, he was on practice squad most of the year.
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, hey, water boy, get over here.
Yeah.
Carry it 8 times in a row and get 60 yards.
Yep. I
It was
remember that.
nuts, man.
I totally agree with all you guys that the answer to this question is Nick Chubb. Can I present the case of how a receiver could end up with more receiving yards? than
Sure,
Chubb
'cause,
does
yeah,
rushing
there's
yards?
a scenario.
Just
For the sake of
here.
argument, here we go,
Yeah.
McNuggets. What
Yeah,
you got?
so and I agree. I do think Nick Chubb's the right answer, but
He's proven.
and he's proven, yeah. So let's just, in a hypothetical world, Deshaun Watson comes back and he is 2020 Deshaun Watson in Houston, if not even better. They're throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game, and they're scoring at will because they have so many different options on the outside. Cooper,
Right.
Moore, DPJ, Tillman, and Njoku, all these different weapons. I think there's a scenario where, in a perfect world, Chubb's getting 16, 17 carries a game. But there's also a world where the Browns are flat out crushing teams because their defense is only allowing 13 to 20 points per game. Offensively, they're scoring 28 to 35 with all the firepower. And in the fourth quarter, when we're looking at scores where we think, oh, they're going to give Nick Chubb 7-8 carries to wind the clock down, well, they're up 21, 23 points already, and they're giving some other guys carries to save Nick Chubb's legs. So in that scenario,
So you think they're going to be boat racing all these teams?
I'm just presenting this scenario to how I think there's a path for a receiver to end up with more receiving yards.
Man, you stole
than
G.
Nick
Bush's
Chubb.
Kool-Aid on this
Yeah,
one.
he did.
No, I think Nick Chubb's the answer. I'm just presenting you the case as to how this would happen.
Yeah, but
My
I mean,
count-
look, the
go ahead.
NFL is not a league of
Yeah.
blowouts.
My counter argument to that is, even if everything you say is true, the offense is clicking, they're up 21 points. You lost me when you say you sub him out. I think that's when you hand him the ball and just ground and pound and run out the clock. That would be
Are
my.
you risking a potential injury up 21 with Nick Chubb?
Well,
is
it
my
depends
question.
on who their backup running back is and how
Yeah.
he's doing. If it's
Which
Ford,
is
I think
not-
it's going to
not
be
happening,
Jerome
right?
Ford, right?
That's going
I
right.
mean, is that what we're thinking right now?
Yeah, Ford.
They drafted him last
yeah,
year out of
Hudson.
Cincinnati.
Where is he?
A speed guy.
Yeah.
He looked great in this preseason. Got very limited work in the regular season, but when he played, he looked very good.
Yeah.
He's an explosive back that hits the hole fast. He's got high-end speed. He can run away from guys. He's not necessarily the kind of guy that you'd like to feed it to 15 times a game and let him ground out clock. But, you know, he's more of a home run hitter where I think Nick is a doubles hitter who can hit the home run.
Yeah. Now, for me, I mean, I look at the receiving core, and I just keep looking at it, and it's almost like a presidential race. You look at it and saying, okay, some of these people going to take votes away from somebody. Like if Mari Cooper has 1,160 yards last year, well, listen, we all believe Elijah Moore is going to be well above 800. Or if it was me, I would hope he would be around 800 or 900 to 1,000. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 800 last year. How many touches is he going to get? David Njoku is another guy that could benefit.
Yeah,
from
eventually
having a
you're stealing
addition by
receptions
subtraction.
and yards from one another.
Eventually, even if you get to 1,200, Nick Chubb can get to 1,200, basically sleepwalking a little bit.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, he's going to get to 1,200.
And I think it's difficult for any of those receivers to get 1,200 because they just have a better roster at this point.
And deeper. So there's
Yes.
so many different, there's a lot of options this year at wide receiver. So we'll
Real
see.
quick, though,